My name's Brandy Lewis. I'm 32. My older sister was always the golden child. Mom and Dad gave her the world while I got lectures. It blew up at last summer's family barbecue. Aunt cut in mid-conversation. Brandy, that AI deal, 16 million. Silence slammed down. Sister's eyes locked on me. What deal? I held steady. Sold my startup. 16 million. She exploded. You can't keep it. It's mine. Owe me 10 million. I've carried this family. She lunged, then collapsed gasping on the spot. Voice cracking. Give it now. Mom jabbed a finger. Stingy thief stealing her future, selfish. Get out and don't come back. Dad nodded silent, eyes hard. Their screams echoed, ungrateful brat. You're done here. I stood, keys in hand. If that's the thanks for building alone, fine. Door slammed as I left. They yelled, stingy girl, one last time. For years, they'd favored her, tuition paid. Debts wiped, home co-signed. Me shifts for community college. Solo loans, 3 years grinding my AI firm from a cold Minneapolis home office to that sale. No help, just silence until now. But refusing them ignited everything. Their greed cracked wide open, and at 5:30 a.m. one freezing Minnesota morning, screams hit my door. Please, sister, help. If a golden child ever demanded your success while calling you stingy, vent in the comments. I devour those truths. Smash like if this stings true. Subscribe and bell to witness their rock bottom, please. The desperation that followed, unbelievable. Looking back, my childhood in Minneapolis set the tone for everything. Our suburban home near the lake looked picture perfect, but inside it was all about who got what. Dawn was the star from the get-go. Sheila and Douglas doted on her like she could do no wrong. When she started college, they paid her full tuition at the University of Minnesota, covered rent for a comfy apartment in the city, and slipped her extra cash that she spent on clothes, concerts, and weekends away. Me, I flipped burgers at a diner after school to save for community college fees. Anytime I mentioned needing a hand, it was Brandy. Responsibility builds character. Nothing's free in life. I learned that lesson fast. Every paycheck I stashed, every class I squeezed in between shifts while they gushed over her report cards at dinner. It built a quiet anger in me. When she racked up thousands on credit cards chasing a shady investment scheme, they swooped in and cleared it all. Saying it was just a bump in the road, my attempts at side jobs, they brushed them off as hobbies. By 25, they helped her with a down payment on a cozy house in the suburbs, complete with a yard and garage. My 25th, a generic card with $20 and make it last. I quit chasing their approval around. Then, channeled the hurt into something real, started reselling electronics online, then moved to coding AI tools. Nights holed up in my basement room, the lake wind rattling the windows as I debugged scripts. It took 3 years of failures and tweaks, but I turned it into a solid company, optimizing data for businesses around the state. They never asked what I was up to, too busy touting her marketing promotions to friends. Fine by me, I thrived on the oversight. Those cold winters toughened me up, while she coasted on their support. I skipped social stuff to refine algorithms. Community college credits piled up slowly, leading to self-taught certifications that landed my first freelance gig. Small contracts at first, helping local shops with inventory AI, but they snowballed. By my late 20s, I'd incorporated, hiring a couple freelancers to handle growth. No family loans, no safety net, just grit against the Minnesota chill. The isolation fueled me. Winters toughened me, and so did my resolve to prove them wrong without a word. That grind paid off when the acquisition offer landed on my desk one crisp fall afternoon. A mid-sized tech firm out of the Twin Cities wanted my AI platform for their supply chain tools. Negotiations dragged for weeks, but I held firm, no concessions on the valuation. When the ink dried, it was $16 million wired straight to my account. I sat in my home office, the faint hum of the lake heater in the background, and exhaled. No champagne pop, no victory lap. Just a quiet nod to myself. I'd built this alone. And now it was mine. I didn't breathe a word to the family. Why would I? They'd never asked about my late nights or the code lines I'd rewritten 100 times. Keeping it under wraps felt right, like testing if they'd spot the change in me without a spotlight. Months slipped by in that hush. I banked the funds conservatively, invested a chunk in index funds, and funneled the rest into a modest expansion of my freelance consulting side. Life stayed steady, mornings running along the frozen lake path, Afternoons tweaking client algorithms, evenings with Trisha over takeout, venting about nothing in particular. She sensed the shift, though. "You're glowing different," she'd say, clinking her coffee mug against mine. I shrugged it off. But inside, the weight lifted. For once, success wasn't a shadow to her spotlight. Then came Dawn's birthday barbecue that July. The backyard setup was classic Lewis string lights draped over the patio, grill firing up burgers and brats. Neighbors milling about with coolers in hand. Sheila had gone all out. As always, for her charcuterie boards piled high, a playlist of Dawn's favorite indie tracks looping. Douglas manned the grill, flipping patties with his usual grunts of approval. I arrived early, arms loaded with a store-bought salad and a bottle of cheap red. Slipping into helper mode like second nature, set the tables, refill ice buckets, laugh at the right jokes. Dawn swept in fashionably late, her laugh cutting through the chatter as she hugged Sheila tight, then posed for selfies with the aunts. The vibe hummed along until dessert hit. Plates of sheet cake passed around, candles flickering low. That's when Eileen, my aunt on Sheila's side, leaned across the picnic table toward me. Fork paused mid-bite. "Brandy, spill on that big AI sale. 16 million. That's game-changer stuff." The words landed like a skipped stone on still water, ripples spreading fast. Conversation stuttered. Heads turned. A neighbor coughed into his napkin. Dawn froze, her slice untouched. "What sale?" Her tone edged sharp, like I'd misspoken. I set my plate down, meeting her stare square. "My company, acquired last fall, $16 million. The number hung there, heavy as the humid air. Sheila's fork clattered against her plate first. Douglas paused mid-sip of his beer, bottle halfway to his lips. Eileen's eyes twinkled with that knowing glint, but the rest of the table went tomb silent. Dawn's face shifted confusion to flush to something raw. 16 million. She pushed back from the table, chair scraping gravel. "You sold it and didn't tell us." Her voice climbed, drawing stares from across the yard. I nodded, calm as I could manage. "Built it from scratch. Figured you'd hear when it mattered." That lit the fuse. She slammed her hands down, cake plate jumping. "Hear when it mattered. This is family money now. You've got to give me at least 10 million. I've slaved for this family's image. The connections. Everything." Sheila jumped in before I could respond, her chair tipping as she rose. "Exactly. How could you hide this? Brandy, 10 million, that's her share. You've always been so closed off, hoarding your little projects. Now look, stealing her future right out from under us, stingy through and through." Her finger stabbed the air toward me, voice carrying to the fence line. Neighbors shifted awkwardly, pretending to check their phones. Douglas cleared his throat once, twice, but stayed planted by the grill, eyes fixed on the dying coals. No backup, no defense, just that heavy quiet that always meant agreement. Dawn wasn't done. She staggered up, clutching the table edge, breath coming short and ragged. "I deserve it, the house, the support. All of it was for us. You owe me for carrying the load." Her knees buckled then, and she went down hard on the grass, gasping like the wind knocked out of her. 10 million, now! Guests rushed over Eileen first, then a couple aunts fanning her with napkins. Sheila knelt beside her, stroking her hair while shooting daggers my way. "See what you've done, get out. Brandy, you're no sister, just a selfish taker ruining her day." The yard blurred into murmurs and stares. I stood there, pulse thundering in my ears, but something inside held firm. Years of their tilt toward her, and this my wind twisted into her loss. I grabbed my keys from the patio table, the metal cool against my palm. "If that's how you see it, I'm gone." No yelling back, no tears, just steps toward the gate. Sheila's voice chased me. "Don't you dare walk away, you stingy girl. You're dead to us." Dawn's weak call followed Brandy. "The money, please." I slid into my car, engine turning over smooth. As the house shrank in the rear view, a strange calm settled. Vindicated, yeah, but the burn lingered. They thought that was the end of me showing up. Wrong. 2 months dragged on in a tense standoff after the barbecue fallout. I threw myself into freelance gigs, tweaking AI models for local firms while the lake thawed into spring. Calls from home went unanswered, voicemails piling up with Sheila's clipped, "We need to talk," or Dawn's shaky, "This isn't over." I deleted them without a second listen. Trisha kept me grounded, dragging me out for walks along the water's edge where the wind whipped sharp enough to clear my head. "They're just mad you leveled up without their script," she'd say, kicking at loose gravel. Her words stuck, but the unease lingered like fog off the lake. Then the alert pinged my phone one Tuesday evening. Bank app flashing read, "Unauthorized login attempt flagged, review now." My stomach dropped as I tapped in. Multiple access tries from an IP address tied to my old family home address, requests for large transfers to an unfamiliar account. Heart slamming. I scrolled the logs, timestamps matching evenings I'd ignored their calls, the amounts chunks adding up to over $200,000, routed toward a real estate closing. A quick search on the recipient pulled up the kicker, a lakeside vacation home listing in northern Minnesota, under Dawn's name. Closing date last week. Rage boiled hot. They'd cracked my old password, probably from a forgotten shared family login years back, and tried siphoning funds for her dream getaway. I locked everything down first. Two-factor everywhere, then paced my living room, phone in hand. Who to call? Not them. Trisha. My best friend Trisha Fowler picked up on the second ring, her voice steady over the line. "Brandy, you sound wrecked. What's wrong?" I spilled it all, the alerts, the IP trace, the house deed popping up online. She sucked in a breath. "That's not just greedy. That's crossing every line. You confronting them." We met at her place an hour later, her small apartment overlooking the same lake but warmer, cluttered with books and takeout menus. Trisha poured us both stiff drinks, her face hardening as I showed her the screenshots. "This is betrayal on steroids," she said, scrolling the logs. "Dawn's always played the victim, but this using family history to hack you, Sheila probably egged her on." I nodded, the pieces clicking. Sheila's tech savvy from her office job. Dawn's endless loans from them in the past. Trisha leaned forward, eyes fierce. "Don't go alone. Record it if you call, and lawyer up. This could be fraud." Her support hit like a lifeline. For the first time since the barbecue, I didn't feel isolated in the fight. The next morning, I dialed the house landline, steeling myself as it rang. Sheila answered, voice syrupy at first. "Brandy." Finally calling back, I cut straight, saw the bank logs. "Your IP trying to pull $200,000 for Dawn's vacation home. Explain." Silence stretched. Then her tone snapped cold. "We were just securing her future. You have all that money sitting there. Family helps family." Dawn grabbed the phone, her voice edged with panic. "It's not stealing. It's fair. You owe me after hiding your windfall. The house is perfect Lakeview, just like we dreamed." I gripped the receiver tighter. "Dreamed on my dime. That's unauthorized access, illegal. Back off, or I report it." Sheila wrestled the phone back, her words turning venomous. "Report us after everything we've done. Ungrateful as ever. Dawn deserves stability. You're the one hoarding like a miser." They hung up mid-rant, but the damage echoed. By evening, whispers started filtering back through mutual friends. A text from an old neighbor, "Heard you're cutting Dawn off cold harsh after she carried the family." Then another from a cousin, "Sheila says you're suing over nothing, greedy much." The community grapevine in our tight-knit suburb lit up fast, grocery store run-ins turning awkward. Church group chats buzzing with, "Brandy's gone corporate, heartless." I upgraded security that night. New passwords, biometric locks on accounts, even a consult with my bank for fraud monitoring. Trisha crashed on my couch, scrolling the rumor threads with me. "They're spinning you as the villain to save face," she muttered. Classic deflection. The betrayal sank deep, sharper than the barbecue blow-up. Not just the attempt, but the casual entitlement, like my years of solo hustle meant nothing next to her deserves. Sleep evaded me, the lake's dark water lapping outside like unanswered questions, but amid the hurt, resolve hardened. This wasn't ending with whispers. This wasn't ending with whispers. The rumors burrowed deep, turning every errand into a minefield, a trip to the corner market for milk. And the cashier, someone who'd waved at me for years, avoided eye contact, muttering about family drama. Church bulletin skipped my name for the next volunteer list. Even Trisha's group chats went quiet when I joined. Threads dying mid-sentence. Isolation closed in like the Minnesota dusk, early and unrelenting. Nights blurred into a haze of staring at ceiling cracks. The apartment's thin walls amplifying every creak from the hallway. Sleep dodged me, chased off by replays of Dawn's gasp, Sheila's jabs. The way Douglas's silence sealed it all. Rock bottom hit hardest those first weeks. I'd curl under the covers, the lake's chill seeping through the window, replaying old slights, the ignored birthdays, the hobby dismissals, Doubt crept in. Had I pushed too hard by hiding the sale? Was I the selfish one for not sharing? Mornings dragged me up hollow, coffee turning bitter in my throat. Work suffered, client emails sat unanswered. Code fixes half done, Trisha noticed during one of our walks, her arm linking mine tight. You're fading. Brandy, this isn't you. She pushed me into her car that afternoon, driving to a quiet coffee shop downtown where the steam rose thick from mugs. Talk to someone professional, not just me. Her insistence cracked my walls. By week's end, I booked a therapist through my insurance, a no-nonsense woman named Laura in a lakeside office. Sessions started slow, twice a week. Laura's questions peeled layers, why I'd internalized their favoritism as my failure, how the betrayal echoed every overlooked milestone. You're grieving a family that never was, she said one rainy Tuesday, rain pattering the pain like impatient fingers. It stung true. The despair lifted fraction by fraction, replaced by a raw clarity. I wasn't the villain. Their greed was. Trisha joined one evening session, her presence steady as she shared witnessing the barbecue meltdown. They twisted her win into their loss, she told Laura. That validation fueled the shift from numb despair to simmering resolve. I started small journaling code ideas again, forcing runs despite the biting wind. Resolve demanded action. First call went to a lawyer referral from Trisha's work network. Marla Grant answered on the third ring, her voice crisp over the line. Family finance disputes, I've seen worse. Lay it out. I met her the next day in her compact office off Lake Street, walls lined with case binders. My best friend Trisha Fowler tagged along for moral backup, waiting in the lobby with bad vending machine coffee. Marla, sharp-eyed in her mid-40s, jotted notes as I detailed the IP logs, transfer attempts, and vacation home deed. This screams unauthorized access potential wire fraud under federal code, she said, tapping her pen. We'll build a civil suit first, but if patterns show intent, it escalates. Retainers 2,000, I bill hourly. I signed without hesitation, the pen scratching firm. Trisha squeezed my shoulder outside, proud of you taking the reins. Next, the numbers crunch. Reena Patel came recommended from Marla's contacts, a meticulous accountant with a downtown firm specializing in fraud audits. I scheduled a virtual meet that Friday, her screen popping up with spreadsheets already queued. Send me every statement from the past year, she instructed, her accent clipping efficient. Weeks in, Reena's reports landed like ammunition, timelines matching family calls to the attempts, IP traces pinning the house router, even cross-referenced receipts for the vacation home down payment wired from a joint account Sheila co-signed. This isn't sloppy, it's deliberate. Reena emailed one evening, attachment heavy with highlighted cells. The deed lists Dawn as buyer, but funding trails back to your flagged transfers. Solid for court. Her breakdowns turned chaos into strategy, each figure a brick in the wall, with evidence stacking. I turned outward. A local business podcast reached out after hearing whispers in tech circles wanted my story on bootstrapping AI in the Midwest. I agreed, framing it as resilience over rags to riches gloss. The host, a guy named Mike from a St. Paul station, kept it real. How'd you scale without investors? Airing 2 weeks later. Listeners flooded my inbox, congrats mixed with sounds like family envy. It shifted the narrative locally from greedy holdout to self-made survivor, emboldened. I pitched a mentorship series at the University of Minnesota's startup incubator, donating time to guide young coders on ethical scaling. First session packed 20 kids, eyes wide as I demoed my old prototypes. Rejection fuels code, I told them, demoing a debug trick. Feedback poured in, inspiring real talk on solo hustles. Trisha beamed from the back row, snapping a photo for her frame. The despair ebbed into purpose. Therapy honed the edge, Laura challenging me to list boundaries. Trisha enforcing them with check-ins. Resolve solidified, no more shadows. This fight was mine to finish. Resolve demanded action. 4 months ticked by in a blur of prep work. Marla steering the civil suit through Minneapolis court channels with iron focus. We filed quietly at first, citing unauthorized access and misappropriation, framing it as financial breach rather than family spat. The clerk stamped the papers on a gray afternoon, the courthouse lobby echoing with footsteps. Marla handed me a copy outside. This levels the field. Their moves now show desperation. I nodded, folding it into my bag as rain slicked the streets. Trisha texted congrats emojis from her shift, her encouragement a constant thread through the wait. Discovery phase kicked in hard. Subpoenas went out for bank records, pulling wire transfer details that nailed the timeline to their home router. Rena's audits backed it up, spreadsheets highlighting mismatches in their joint accounts, the down payment on Dawn's vacation home, tracing straight to the flagged attempts. 11.2 million total owed. Rena calculated during one video call. Factoring principal plus accrued interest under state usury laws, that's restitution if we push. Marla wove it into motions, filing for summary judgment to skip a full trial if evidence held. Opposing counsel, a slick firm Sheila scraped together, fought back with delays, claiming familial misunderstanding. But the logs didn't lie. The mediation room loomed sterile on that final Friday, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. We arrived early, Marla spreading files across the conference table like battle plans. I sat rigid, pulse steady but nerves humming. They filed in minutes later, Sheila first, chin high but eyes darting, Douglas shuffling behind, avoiding my gaze. Dawn last, pale and fidgeting with her sleeve. Their lawyer, a guy named Ellis with a forced smile, opened with platitudes. Let's find common ground, family bonds matter. Marla shut it down quick. Ground starts with facts. Here's the IP trace from your client's address. She slid the packet forward. Pages fanning out, timestamps synced to their evening calls. Ellis scanned it, brow furrowing. Sheila leaned in, whispering furiously before he waved her off. Coincidence, shared networks happen, Marla countered with Rena's breakdown. Not when the wires matched the vacation home invoice down to the cent. 11.2 million moved or attempted principal from the flagged pulls. Interest compounding since. The room tensed. Dawn shifted, mumbling. We just needed stability. It's not like Brandy can't spare it. Douglas cleared his throat. First words all day. Thought it was fair after all we've given. Eileen entered then, summoned as witness. Her statement typed neat. I saw the favoritism firsthand Brandy built alone while they poured into Dawn. Pressure mounted as Marla stacked more dealership equivalents in the home deed. Phone records overlapping the logins. Their lawyer poked holes, but each jab bounced off the evidence wall. This escalates to wire fraud if ignored, Marla warned. Voice level. Federal threshold met 18 months probation minimum for first offense. Dawn paled further, hands trembling on the table. I didn't mean, it was for us. Sheila snapped, she stressed your bullying. But Douglas cut in low, enough, the numbers don't add up our way. Ellis sighed, conceding ground. What terms? Marla laid them out. Crisp full restitution of 11.2 million. Wired within 30 days, notarized admission of unauthorized attempts and defamation retractions sent to family contacts, binding no contact order barring any financial access or claims. Violation meant automatic escalation to criminal charges. Silence blanketed the room, broken only by Dawn's shallow breaths. Their lawyer huddled with them. Whispers, urgent. Finally. Sheila grabbed the pen first, scrawling her name with a glare my way. Douglas followed, head bowed. Dawn hesitated longest, tears streaking as she signed, muttering, "This ruins me." The mediator stamped it done. Copies distributed. Marla gathered our files. Solid win, probation kicks in once feds review the fraud angle. I exhaled outside. The courthouse steps slick underfoot. 18 months hanging over Dawn felt final. A real-world slap for crossing that line. No more shadows for me. The fight was mine to finish. That 5:30 a.m. jolt came sharp the morning after mediation wrapped. Freezing Minnesota dawn light filtered through my blinds as screams pierced the quiet outside my door. Please, sister, help. I yanked on a robe, heart thudding, and peered through the peephole. There they stood, Dawn hunched against the rail, face streaked and swollen, Sheila pounding the frame, eyes wild, Douglas lingering back, fists clenched in his coat pockets. The wind howled off the lake, carrying their pleas in frantic bursts. I cracked the door an inch, chain latched tight. What now? Dawn lunged forward first, voice cracking raw. The bank's frozen everything, our accounts. The house equity. We need $50,000 for lawyer fees by noon or it's all gone. Probation starts tomorrow. I can't lose the roof too. Sheila shoved in close, breath fogging the gap. Brandy, we're desperate. Dawn's breaking down, can't eat, can't sleep, and the home. We'll lose it to foreclosure. Help us. Just this once. Douglas muttered low. It's family. Don't let pride end us like this. Their words hit like slaps, desperation twisting what was left of our ties. Dawn's tramcam etched plain in her hollow cheeks. Sheila's voice trembling with the weight of impending eviction notices. The community whispers had escalated. Neighbors who'd once invited them to block parties now crossed streets to avoid. But this begging at my threshold after signing away their claims, I felt the pull. That old habit of fixing their messes, but resolve held firm. You chose this unauthorized pulse. Lies, demands, 11.2 million back where it belongs, and now probation for her fraud. No more handouts. Dawn sobbed outright. Please. Sister. I'm ruined. Sheila's plea sharpened. We'll lose everything, the house, our standing. Think of us. I shut the door, soft but final. Lock clicking into place. Their knocks faded as I backed away. Phone in hand to block their numbers one last time. Cut off complete, no calls, no visits, no lingering threads. The silence settled heavy, but freeing. After that, their downfall played out in fragments pieced from distant reports. Dawn sold the vacation home quick to cover basics, fetching far less than paid amid the scandal. Probation confined her 18 months of check-ins. Job hunts stalling under the fraud shadow. Sheila and Douglas retreated inward, their suburban circle shrinking as gossip spread. Block parties skipped them. Church nuts turned cold shoulders. Finances crumbled, bills piled, credit denied, forcing odd jobs that barely scraped by in Minneapolis's high costs. Isolation bit hardest. Old friends ghosted. Family gatherings empty without invites. I watched from afar. No glee, just closure. Their greed had carved this path. My stand sealed it. Family isn't blood, it's respect earned, not demanded. Self-reliance handed me freedom they couldn't touch. As I locked away the last mediation file, that truth anchored me solid.